Hey guys, Ronnie Calhoun here with Miss Lou Champion Spotlight. I have my friend Megan Paul Taunton in the house today. How are
Hi,
you?
I'm good. Good.
Good.
Excited to be here.
Man, I'm excited to have you here. There's a story. You've got a brand new book called
Yes.
Terminal to Eternal.
Yes. Terminal to eternal.
That so a lot of people around here already know a lot of the story
Mhm.
about Aiden
Mhm.
and DIPG
Yeah.
and sort of the journey that your
Mhm.
family has been on.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that's what this book is,
Yes.
sort of a story of the journey.
Yes. Yes. I guess you could call it the in-depth version. It's my personal account of, pretty much through the whole journey from start to finish, my personal notes from journaling and just, those intimate feelings and questions and stuff that you have throughout everything. But it's all in the book.
Awesome. I ordered a copy. I was telling you off camera. I ordered a copy. I was going to crash read it before this interview, and it's
Yeah.
coming in tomorrow. So
Yeah.
I'll be messaging you. I'm sure once I get it, I won't be able to put it down, so I'll
Well,
knock it out
I hope
quickly.
not. Yeah. I've
Um,
gotten some good input from it, people that have ordered it and they're like, I can't put it down. It's been a blessing to hear that.
Yeah,
So,
well, and at the end of this interview, we'll put on the screen of how to get it and all of that stuff.
okay.
So, um, well, why don't we just kind of dive in and let's just kind of talk about the book a little bit. I'll kind of let you lead and
Yeah. Okay.
tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I started writing the book, gosh, it feels like maybe 2 years ago, because I know it took me about a year to actually get the whole thing together. Just going back and, looking through all my journaling and stuff like that and kind of composing a timeline of what all we went through and just the whole journey and stuff and trying to make it make sense to everyone else. First time I've ever written a book like this, so it was quite the emotional process,
Yeah,
having to relive everything and just really trying to keep that raw emotion into the words, into the book, so people can really, like, you can really take them on a journey and really take them on a journey of finding faith and hope, even through like the hardest of times. But the book starts out right from the initial diagnosis and kind
okay,
of does some flashbacks in time of the months leading up to diagnosis, kind of some issues we were dealing with, some symptoms Aiden was having, as far as like behavioral issues that was just out of the ordinary.
hmm
She was my oldest child, so it was, I was a lot of questioning, like, is this normal, or am I crazy, like what's going on, and that mother instinct that kind of takes over and you like, something's not right.
yeah,
um, so I can remember, sitting up at night researching, Googling like different behaviors and what this could mean and what this can mean and stuff like that. But and I talk about that in the book. That was my first initial thought after we got that diagnosis, and driving to a hospital in Lafayette and pulling up, and it hit me that we have an answer. Like, this is what this is what's causing all of these things, and at the same time it was like a relief to have a diagnosis, like, this is what it's called, this is what we're going to do now. But then it was just like a gut shot, because it was like, how did I not know, so it just takes you through all of that, all
yeah,
those emotions, and those first few hours and days of just total chaos, really. As you
yeah.
can imagine, it's hospitals. You go from never being in a hospital, a children's hospital, to basically living in one for, weeks and months. So,
So when you say behavioral issues, what
mhm.
what are some just an example of some of it?
um, temper tantrums was the big thing. And a lot of moms, a lot of parents experience that with kids. Temper tantrums is just part of,
Yeah.
raising kids.
That's right.
But it got to the point where I just felt like her tantrums were extreme. Like it was just something wasn't right. She got to where different things outside of our schedule would completely throw her off, and just upset her. She had always been in daycare. I'd always worked full time. And she was in daycare since she was a baby, and then her brother was in daycare, and it got to the point where she did not want to be separated from me. Like I would drop her off in the mornings, and it would take 30, 45 minutes for me to peel her away from me.
Yeah.
And that was a major shift. And it was just this aggressive behavior sometimes.
Yeah. So that was sort of your first indication that something was going on.
That was the first.
Is that common with this, like the temper thing? Is that?
I think so. I think it was more of she didn't know how to communicate that something wasn't right because she was 3 years old. She was a few months shy of 4. And that she would have headaches, nothing too severe, to make you like really stop and be like, something's not right. Because she never stopped playing. She never stopped eating. She wouldn't lay around, and just be like in excruciating pain. She would just function normally like that, just a slight little headache.
Kid, yeah.
And she'd always kind of struggled with speech, and she had been tested a speech pathologist over the years, and it was, it's normal, her speech. It was a little like delayed, a little hard to understand, and so that was another thing, and we kept pursuing that.
Yeah. So what about you were talking about sort of digging in or whatever. What was that process like? Was it something that?
It was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough. Throughout our journey, I'd gotten pretty vocal on social media, and I would share a lot of, what we were experiencing and going through and stuff. But I still kept some of that stuff to myself, that you don't know about sharing certain things like that with the world. But in this book, I definitely just let it all out. I didn't really hold back. I wanted that honesty, and because as moms, you question everything. It's just you beat yourself up. It's just you have a lot of emotions and a lot of thoughts and what ifs and
it can be really scary to dig in. But do you think in hindsight it was therapeutic for you?
Oh, 100%. Yes. Which is one reason that I started journaling, and I'm so thankful that I did. And at first I started because I had to keep track of writing like all of Aiden's medications down and what time she would have to take medication and like the dosage, because that was so new to me, trying to keep track of all of those different things, and you didn't want to screw anything up, and so I started doing that. And then in between, writing that stuff down and sitting in doctor's appointments or hospitals, or while she was in radiation or something like that, I would just, all those thoughts and emotions that come to you, I was like, I just need to write this down. Like, just write it down, get it out. And that was my way of processing, and I'm so thankful that I did that, because you forget a lot of that stuff that you think about or that you go through until you open it up and you read your own words, and you're like, it takes you back in time and you just relive it, and you're like, wow, especially today, looking back. I mean, this was back in 2015, 2016, and it's to see how far your journey has come.
Yeah, I'm sure that you've had people to reach out to you that you've helped by sharing your your journey with them. I mean, maybe it's not the same exact thing, but people are going through things, and I think that your strength really helps other people.
Hey guys, we just wanted to take a minute and tell you about our awesome partners who make this show possible.
Trinity Medical Center, Sabrina Doré Agency, Miss Lou Family Dentistry, Mart and On The Go Deli, Natchez Heating and Cooling and Plumbing, Concordia Bank and Trust, member FDIC, Hicks Chicks, the Brandin Iron Steakhouse, Hampton Inn and Suites, Natchez, Intensive Home Healthcare, Rise and Shine Studio by Melissa Vaughan, Rolling in the Dough, Crawdaddy's Fidelia, the Woodlands Event Venue and Wedding Barn, Co-Lin Community College, Natchez campus.
So make sure to let these businesses know how much you appreciate them helping us spread positivity throughout the community. And remember, tell them Miss Lou Champion sent you.
So is this book is this faith-based also, right?
It is. It is.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've always gone to church, been a Christian for as long as I can remember, but I wouldn't really say, a strong faith. So this was something that definitely shook my faith in a good way, though. It really made me dive in, and I really talk about this a lot in the book, like the different realizations that, as a human being, as a mother, so many things are out of your control. This was the perfect example, and I was one that I liked to be in control. I tried to control every situation I walked into, and and especially when you have kids, you're like, I don't want them to act this way, or I don't want, you think, oh, I got the reins, I can really, and this journey with Aiden, it just it broke all that down, it just shattered all of that, and it was like I had to build it back up from the foundation, which was a blessing, and it really just taught me not to lean on myself, that I didn't have to be the strong one, or have all the answers and be in control, and I leaned on my faith, and that grew, and that grew in Aiden also along the way. So
I mean, I told you this several years ago, but this just popped in my head, and it's amazing that in those few short years of life, how many lives that she probably affected. Mm-hmm. I could live to be 100, and I'll never touch as many lives as she did in a few short years, And it's funny how that works. God works, and it's just it's amazing.
It really is. It truly is. It still shocks me to this day, how he used her and how she touched a lot of people.
Yeah. So the faith part of your journey, I'm guessing, is probably what really ended up pulling you through to the other side, because there's got to be a point in there that you either just break.
Yeah.
I mean, it's overwhelming. You either break or you push through. And
100%. Yeah. And and a lot of people say when you go through something like this, and or you go through grief or anything like that, you hear people say, there's nothing that I can say to make it better. There's nothing and you kind of learn that along the way. It's, you learn who can make it better and who can have the right words, and that the Creator. So that's kind of what I learned, and it really taught me compassion. A lot of compassion for other people's circumstances and stuff, and it's kind of, I guess, what life is all about,
Yeah. Have you done some speaking and stuff too?
Not really. No, I started a podcast.
Yeah. I could see you getting into that. I mean, I could see it.
Yeah, I started the podcast. I guess it's been about maybe a year or two ago, right when I was starting to write the book. And I guess because I just felt like I had a lot to say at that time, and just felt like I needed to get some stuff off my chest, and kind of God was leading me to that. But then writing the book kind of took over, and so yeah.
So what about the writing process? You never written a book before?
No.
What
No.
That's a learning curve right there.
Yes.
Just to learn. Did you
Yes.
reach out to somebody and say, "Hey, how do I write a book?" Or?
Yeah, well, I have a publisher in Baton Rouge, and she helped me publish a children's book. Was the first, and it was I Think I Want to See Jesus, which came from conversations directly with Aiden. And when I told her that I really wanted to write our story, you know, all she told me, she was like, just sit down and write. Just write. Don't try to, you know, create chapters or name chapters or, you know, try to get really organized. She's like, just sit down and write how you want to tell your story. And she was like, we'll take care of the rest.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Thank God for professionals who know what they're doing.
Yeah. So you just sort of spilled it out on the paper.
Yeah.
And
At first, I did go in and, like I said, just pull all my journaling out and kind of make a rough draft of our timeline and write down some stuff that I for sure wanted to have in the book, because there's a lot of different things that happened throughout the journey. Different kind of like wow moments or really specific moments that I wanted in the book. So I, of course, had to, make note, like, don't forget this part. Don't, and the dates and stuff. Because, dates and stuff, all that runs together over time. And so I had to, at first get my head clear and do all that before I could actually sit down and write. And there were times I would write a good bit, but then, like, I would have to stop and I wouldn't come back to it for a month at a time. Like, emotionally, I wasn't ready to step back into it. So that was one thing I told myself, I'm not going to rush it. Like, this is going to be a slow process. And when I finish, I finish.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of wisdom in that because, I mean, you knew going in that it's going to be a tough process, but a worthy.
Yeah, I knew 100% it would be, completely worth it.
Yeah.
So
did you call some other people during the process and sort of, is this all from your perspective or are there some other people?
It's all from my perspective, all my thoughts, and I didn't want to put anybody else's words or thoughts in there. That was just strictly from, from my side, I guess.
Yeah.
And, I did try to highlight different people in the book, of course, my husband, we talk, I talk about him in there and stuff, and a lot of perspective from Aiden. But yeah, it's mainly just right from my vision, my experience.
Yeah. I can't wait to read it now. I'm sitting here just thinking, can't wait to get it tomorrow. So your other book, your books before this, I Can't Wait to See Jesus. Is that?
I Think I Want to See Jesus.
I Think I Want to See Jesus. So that one, that's geared towards children, right? Is that
that's the children's book. That's the children's book.
How many children's books do you have?
I have 2 out. Is that one and then Heaven in Our Hearts, which that book talks about more from my other 2 children, Rustin and Ronnie, and their questions about heaven, and having a sister in heaven and stuff like that. So it's a faith-based children's book, but it's dealing with grief and little ones.
So what age is what's the appropriate age level if somebody's out there watching with their children kind of get it?
Yeah, I think any young child, because some kids are just, they experience grief at a young age, so whether that be from a grandparent or a parent, something like that. So I don't really know, as long as it's, the parent can read it to them, at that little age. But, when they start reading at like 5 and 6 and then on up until, I guess, 10 years old when you stop reading children? I don't know.
I'm sure even though it's a children's book, I'm sure that adults get something out of it.
I really think adults could get something out of it. It's a sweet book, but on a sensitive subject, but it talks about it in a encouraging way. So.
And that was your first That was your first book that you.
I think I Want to See Jesus was the first, and
Okay.
then Heaven in Our Hearts was the second children's book.
Okay, so you've got those two, and then do you have any other projects that are out?
I did 2 devotionals that I self-published
Okay.
that are on Amazon as well. But one of them is 21 Days to Let Go of Fear, which is kind of just a motivational thing. Fear was a lot of stuff that I used to deal with, fear of life in general, or, just your everyday fears. And so I just chose to write a devotional about that, just to help people that might experience that the way I did. And then I did one that's geared towards grief. It's Mourning and Movement.
Okay.
It's a 30-day
We'll put these on the
devotional.
screen as.
Yeah. But
So-
they're all on Amazon.
So people would just search. It's MEGAN, right? We'll put it on the screen, and
Yeah.
they're all on Amazon. To be
Yep,
able to
it's
get.
all on Amazon.
So let's talk about a little bit about your experience with the Miss Lou. Going through this process. I tell people all the time that this area is just.
Mm-hmm.
We may not have the biggest and the best of everything. We may not be able to run to, Bass Pro Shop, but the people here are amazing.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your perspective of
Wow.
that.
Yeah. And I do talk about a lot of this in the book, just the amount of support that we had emotionally, financially. It still boggles my mind, that our community came together and supported us like they did. But yeah, it's still shocking. Like, immediately the day that we got our diagnosis, I can't tell you the amount of texts that came in, and the next day there was a prayer vigil held in Vidalia on the river, praying for us. And I think that day it was, donations started coming in, and just it's amazing. And I do go in depth in the book about that, through that whole process of people just giving and not questioning, just giving from their hearts. Like it really changes your mindset on money and the giver, and it's just. That was a huge blessing. There were so many different fundraisers. I hate to even try to name. I can't.
Yeah.
And there's no way I can remember every one of them. But
That's a good thing that it was so overwhelming.
Yeah, it was just amazing. This area.
And those prayers are just as important as the fundraisers.
Yes.
I tell people all the time, there's people around here that will give what they don't even have to give.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be like, I don't really have much, but you can have what I have.
Yeah.
And that's hard to find in the world these days.
It truly is. It truly is.
I know that was comforting as a family to know that you're not alone,
Yeah.
What about the St. Jude experience? You want to talk about that any?
We can. Mm-hmm.
I don't know a lot about them. I just hear about it,
Well, that was kind of us, when we were in Lafayette at the Children's Hospital. We had decisions to make, like where we wanted to go for treatment. What were we going to do? And, Lafayette was an option, and then they talked about sending us to Texas, and then they had mentioned St. Jude. And I talk about this in the book. When they mentioned St. Jude, I was totally against it, because I was just like, that's where kids go that have cancer. Like, my daughter has a brain tumor. And I go in depth on this, at how naive I was in those first days and weeks, like coming to terms with my child having cancer, and how much I ignored when the doctors would come into the room and they would spit out statistics and all these different things. It was something was just blocking it.
Protecting yourself.
Yes. And at the time I was 6 months pregnant now too, but I was, and I don't know if it was just God's protection on me and my heart at those first few days and weeks, but St. Jude was just something that I was trying to push away. And I had a nurse come into the room. Actually, she was our social worker. And this is a part in the book where I talk about how she stepped out of her role, like as a social worker, your professional guidelines you have to go by, you're not really supposed to give your opinions and that kind of stuff. But she took her name badge off and she was like, I'm talking to you as just a mother. She was like, I would go to St. Jude. And in that moment, that's what I needed to hear. Like, I needed somebody to tell me what to do, and you
didn't need a hint. You
needed, I needed, this is the plan. And when she told me that, I was just like, okay, we'll go to St. Jude, And that was a journey to get there, but when you got there, it's just something you see on TV commercials, and a lot of times you turn the TV commercials because you don't want to see it. Mm-hmm. I was that way. I didn't want to be sad. I didn't want to think about that. And so when you step into St. Jude and you step into that world as a parent with a child with cancer, it's amazing at what all they do and how they're there for you and just the facility itself. So I'm very thankful that was our landing pad. Like, that's where we went first. That's where we could stay. We stayed as a family there on site, had our own little hotel room type thing, and my mom stayed with us. And my son was about 15 months at the time, I think. I don't know, time runs together, but he was little, still in diapers, so he was able to come and stay with us there, and so that was a huge comfort for us, being away from home, having everybody together. So
we just recently did a fundraiser for a little girl that's over there now for the Hogue and the Poole family, and they were telling me the other day about their experience at St. Jude, and I was like, man, that's amazing. It makes you feel good about humanity whenever you hear those stories about that. Mm-hmm. So does the book talk any about Aiden? Like, does it talk about her some?
Oh, yeah.
We learn a little bit about her.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I definitely share, like, her personality and kind of her spirit and stuff. And, she was a feisty little thing. Very headstrong, but of course she was your typical little girl. She loved, at the time, Frozen had just, came out, so she was a hardcore Elsa fan, loved art, drawing, all that kind of stuff, and loved her music. She had her little iPad with her little playlist, and, she took it everywhere and listened to her music and stuff, but oh, yeah, I definitely share, all about her and her personality.
And strength.
Yeah.
Very strong.
Yeah. Of course, in the book, especially our time at St. Jude, I really share, like, our struggles that we went through there. It was, the place was amazing, but you really go through a process of learning how to live a new life and learning your new normal, and how her as a 3-year-old had to, grow up kind of quick. She had to accept these new things and learn how to deal with all these different things, and me too, all of us. But it kind of really shows her through a really dark time and then just come out like so much stronger and just full of life and like a light about her. So I really tried to touch on that in the book.
But I think what you've done is very courageous, and I think that it does so much for other people.
Yeah, I hope so. I think that was my main goal when writing the book, was just to, encourage others, and not necessarily if your child has cancer or you go through something like that, but just as a parent in general, or just a person in general, that there's still hope and there's still goodness that can come from, such tragedy and heartbreak. So that was my main intention, is just to show how God's love really is a real thing, and it's just an amazing thing. And
yeah, that was going to be my last question. Would be anybody out there struggling with anything? What would you tell them as far as faith based, as far as just overcoming the grief process and tying that with the faith based? What would you say to them?
Oh, I could say so much, but my biggest thing was having to learn to be honest with my feelings and my thoughts, and just coming to terms with God. And, the first thing that really clicked for me during this journey was, there wasn't a checklist of things that I needed to do every day to be a Christian, to have faith. Like, it was, God loves me. He loves my kids, like, that period. Like, He loves you no matter what. And, that never really clicked for me. Like, I didn't have to live up to something, some kind of guidelines or, like I said, a checklist. It was just pure, honest love. And when that clicked, and just diving into, like, reading my Bible and praying, like, having that open communication. And I talk about this in the book. Like, I learned to just, like, have an ongoing conversation with God. Like, it was like, no, it wasn't like, okay, dear God, like, amen, that was it. It was like an ongoing thing. And that is what truly builds your relationship with God, is, coming to Him and telling Him everything, even though He knows everything. But it's for your heart and for your own good to come and just surrender all that and just have that communication. And so that would be, like, the first thing. Like, you just have to build that trust, that relationship with God, and just go from there. Like, He'll lead. Like, He'll just take you where you need to go, and He will show you. I can't tell you how many times that, I would be struggling with something during one of the treatment sessions or something, and God would use a friend to text me a scripture or something, and it was exactly what I needed in those moments, and it's when you're in that, that closeness with Him and just waiting on His word, like, He will show up, and give you what you need. So.
Yeah, I think the word that keeps popping out whenever you're saying all that, the word that I keep coming back to as I'm listening to you is surrender.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's hard for people to do. That was hard for me to do.
It's very difficult.
It's
we're
so
all
difficult.
humans. We want to control every aspect of everything.
Yes,
Yeah,
and we want what we want when we want it. And believe me, during the process, one of my main prayers was, like, God, just make it go away. Like, just make this go away, and we'll just look back and be like, this was just a blip in time, But, that didn't happen. And that through the process, it was, like I said, surrendering and being like, it's not what I want. And it's moment to moment. Yeah. It's great to have those prayers for the future. But, and I talk about this a lot in the book, I had to learn to pray for the next hour. Like, what did we need in those next few minutes? What did we need in that moment? That type of thing, not just like pray for the miracle, pray for it to go away. Like,
yeah, I learned, I guess, with my parents was that it kind of matured me. With my parents passed, I was just, I learned, I started praying different during that period. There were certain things I just had to accept, and I didn't pray for outcomes. I prayed for strength and peace for everyone involved, and comfort and stuff like that. Yeah. And that really sort of changed my mindset, and I've never went back to the old way. Yeah, I really don't pray for outcomes on anything anymore.
Yeah, that's a good perspective. Yeah,
but that surrender's hard though, and I think I'm proud for you.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you. I can't wait to read the book. Is there anything else that you want to add about the book or anything?
you might want to have a box of tissues when you dive in.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's it's a tough read, but I think it's an inspirational, read, and you really get to see how God will really show up for you and just take care of everything and bring you through it. And that was my main goal, of course, I have other kids, and I really wanted something on paper to be like when they get older, it comes that time that they can read it and read about their sister and read about the journey and really,
Before we get out, let's tell us about the other kids. Tell us about.
So Rustin.
We're in no rush. So
okay. Rustin is 8. He's 8. And when Aiden was diagnosed, he was, I think it was right at 15, 16 months. He was still a little baby, but they were extremely close. Like, he loves his big sister. They were really close. Of course, I was pregnant with our youngest, Ronnie Ann, who is now 6.5. But, they're just a joy. It's been a process for them. Of course, dealing with grief at such a young age and so many questions and stuff like that. But, they have really inspired me in how they have handled everything. And they talk about their sister every day. It's, she's, definitely still a part of our life, everyday life. And, I pray that continues.
Yeah,
so.
That's amazing. So it's not something that they sort of run from. It's something they embrace.
No, yeah, like it's, something that I knew that I did not want to push that away. Like, I wanted to just break it open and, like, if you've got questions, emotions, like, we're going to approach it now. Like, and a lot of that was, my grief too. I didn't want my grief to affect their grief in any way. Like, I didn't want to run from having those conversations with them because it was emotional or hard for me. Like, I wanted us to all be open and honest and talk about it, because I've seen how grief can really make you angry and bitter. I've seen it in other people, and I was like, I don't want that for my kids. I don't want them to use that as a reason to do something crazy in this world, or something like that. Like, use that as an excuse. Like, I hope that they build strength from it, and it just really helped their walk with God at a young age too. So,
well, that's amazing. I think I'm glad to hear that. And just look, life. I tell people all the time, life doesn't come with a manual.
Oh no.
and we all have these different journeys, and it's hard.
It is.
And yours has been, tremendously hard the last few years. But you don't have a checklist, like you said earlier. There's no manual.
No.
But to have the wisdom, like you were just saying, to just embrace it and to share it with your children and be open to them. There's a lot of wisdom in there. And that probably comes from God.
It definitely does. Yeah. He's the source of everything, because definitely I have my weak moments. I have my, my bad days and completely normal. But, overall, I think our life as a family has, there's been so much goodness come from this journey, and I think it will continue. It's been an adventure. Our lives have changed so much, from back in 2015 with that diagnosis, like just a complete 360. Like, never thought we would be where we are today. The directions we've gone. It's
not always our plan, is it?
Oh no, definitely not. So.
Well, I appreciate you coming in. I know we've been talking for a long time, and y'all been on the road a little bit, and you've been very busy with the book and everything. But I'm glad to have you in, and just there's always an open door here.
Well, thank you.
Anytime you have anything that you want to get out, the couch is always open.
All right.
So
this has been fun. I think. Thank you.
And I want to say thank you to everybody that's watched this. I I hope you've enjoyed and learned and been inspired as much as I have. I want to say thank you to all of our partners who make these conversations possible. And as always, God bless everybody watching this today. And as always, have a champion day.
Hey guys, Ronnie Calhoun here with Miss Lou Champion Spotlight. Summer's here, and that means long, hot days in the Miss Lou. Our friends at Natchez Heating and Cooling are here for you. They make sure you never have to worry about your home's health or efficiency. When you need them, they show up. It's as simple as that. So call Natchez Heating and Cooling for all of your HVAC needs.
Welcome to your new hospital, Trinity Medical. Located in Faraday, Trinity Medical is the only acute care facility in the Tri-Parish area. Here you will find an active pursuit of holistic health, a strong, honest group of clinicians, and a consciousness of others that transcends the 80,000 square feet committed to you and your loved ones. Trinity Medical. People you know, caring for people you love.